Hitler was always surrounded by striking women. He confided to his party comrades that he preferred fair-haired beauties with generous curves. Unimpressive, short, with a ridiculous little mustache, he nonetheless exerted a kind of magnetic pull on women. At the start of his political career, he deliberately courted the fair sex. Admirers often lent him money and made large donations to the party. Many women voted for him. His speeches targeted, among others, a female audience. German women wrote letters asking Hitler to father their child. Rumors swirled about affairs with director Leni Riefenstahl, actress Renate Müller, singer Margaret Zelli, and Richard Wagner's daughter-in-law, Winifred. Why then, out of so many wealthy and famous society ladies, did Adolf Hitler choose a simple girl from an ordinary German family? She wasn't particularly clever, had quite average abilities, and tended to put on weight. Why then did he keep Eva Braun at his side? It's known there was no passionate romance between them, and they slept in separate rooms. Experts insist the young woman hid a secret. Professor Thomas Lundmark, who studied her biography, concluded she suffered from a rare gynecological anomaly. He reported that she had Mayer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome. Specialists say this condition occurs in about 1 in 5,000 women. The Rokitansky syndrome involves the absence of a uterus and may include malformations of the vagina, sometimes its complete absence. Pregnancy is impossible in such cases. The only potential remedy at the time was a complex and risky operation. Lundmark found documents indicating that Adolf Hitler looked for Germany's best surgeons for Eva. Did he actually want to become a father? Records say she was to undergo surgery in Munich. Among the papers was a note, preserved by a surgeon's wife, describing a call from the Berghof, in which Hitler thanked the doctor for his special attention and preparations for the procedure. They met in October 1929 in Heinrich Hoffmann's photo studio. 17-year-old Eva Braun worked there as an assistant. Adolf was already over 40 and was a frequent client. That day Eva stayed late, climbed a ladder to reach folders on the top shelves, and the owner returned with a man of indeterminate age sporting a comically small mustache. The two men sat on a sofa opposite her. Eva noticed the newcomer eyeing her legs. Curiously, before meeting Hitler, the girl knew nothing about him, but after asking her boss, she realized this was her chance. She had visited a fortune teller who predicted she would marry a famous man and a film be made about her life. When Hitler appeared, she decided he must be the one. She trailed after him. From the very beginning, however, Hitler made it clear he wouldn't court her or devote much time to her. The party came first. He was also in the midst of a personal crisis. His niece Jelly Raubal had taken her own life. Hitler's relationship with Jelly was far from merely familial. It went much too far. By all accounts, it was sexual. Hitler, many researchers argue, had deviant proclivities, and Jelly gave him exactly what he wanted. Uncle, as she called him, doted on his niece, and she, they say, willingly indulged his most perverse wishes. Their affair lasted several years. Hitler even moved her into his residence, nominally as a housekeeper. Jelly dreamed of singing opera and hoped her uncle would help her. But Hitler did not want a successful woman at his side, and in time simply grew bored of her. He belittled her, called her talentless, and said she had gone from a pretty girl to a chubby one. What devastated her most was learning he had many other lovers. Upon discovering Hitler's affairs with other women, Jelly shot herself with his pistol. She was not the only casualty. Ludwig Hitler also took her own life over unrequited feelings. Inge Ley, the beautiful wife of one of Hitler's associates, likewise committed suicide out of love for him, leaving a note that she had found no reciprocity. Eva Braun's life could have ended much earlier as well. Her first suicide attempt occurred 3 years after meeting Hitler. His coldness and their rare meetings drove her to despair. She tried to shoot herself with her father's revolver. The bullet struck her neck, but she survived. She loved him, yet felt trapped. Eva wrote that he paid her no more attention than one would a house dog. It was likely a desperate cry for help. These are entries in her 1935 diary, the year Hitler became Reich Chancellor. Despite being the mistress of Germany's most powerful man, Eva still lived with her parents in Munich and worked at the photo studio. May 11th. How I wish I could fall gravely ill and feel nothing at all. Do you know why I must endure this? May 10th. He has found a replacement for me. How sad that he didn't tell me. May 28th. I decided to take 35 pills, so I should surely not wake up. As it happened, the dose was only a third of what would be fatal, just 12 pills, and she was saved yet again.
To keep Hitler, whom she openly wrote about and professed to love, Eva took a reckless step. It worked. Hitler finally moved his mistress to his Berghof residence. There, at least, she appeared within his closest circle and gained a minimum of recognition. To this day, experts argue, did Eva Braun truly love Adolf Hitler? And why was she so desperate to marry him? She saw a man who had risen to absolute power and was willing to accept the fate of a simple girl beside a leader. She was also calculating and not without vanity. Above all, she craved a prominent surname. Her subtle smile and slightly lifted right eyebrow, signals of someone intent on making her way in society, gently and unobtrusively, seemed to reflect that. At the Berghof, Eva led an idle life. Walks, swims in the lake, gymnastics, photography, and home movie filming. Hitler gave her a movie camera she rarely put down. But she never became the true mistress of the residence. When foreign guests arrived, Eva disappeared from sight. Only about 20 of Hitler's closest associates saw her at all. To everyone else, Eva Braun was just a shadow. At official receptions of the Third Reich, other women shone, the legitimate wives of high-ranking Nazis. Eva envied them and dreamed the Führer would propose. She was even willing to undergo a risky operation that could have cost her life. After the war, many of those first ladies ended up in psychiatric clinics or died in poverty. Some were disowned by their own children. Here are smiling women in old photographs, unaware whose herbal tonics and remedies they are preparing. Bettina Göring now practices folk medicine on Thailand's island of Samui, where the Second World War is merely a history lesson. The name Göring has lost much of its sinister ring. It was a heavy legacy, problems that lasted a lifetime, like a piece of World War II encrypted right into my name, says Bettina. From childhood, she knew her grandfather, Hermann Göring, was a war criminal. Under orders of this honorary Obergruppenführer of the SS, millions were murdered. His overriding aim was the total extermination of Jews worldwide. Bettina is Göring's only direct descendant. About 20 years ago, she made a radical choice: voluntary sterilization. I had my tubes tied when I was 30, before I ever met my husband. I don't want children to be born from me with that name. I don't want to continue the Göring line. It is as if she chose to shoulder the burden of suffering her grandfather inflicted on humanity. Once upon a time, Hermann Göring, one of the Third Reich's leaders, was a handsome man, adored by women, a brilliant orator thought to be the equal of Hitler. Hitler named him successor, the second man in the state. Göring held countless key posts, but his character was harsh and domineering. At home, though, he could be a jovial, kindly fat man. So recalls his daughter, Edda. I sat on a cushion on a chair by my father, wearing a pretty dress, with my mother sitting opposite. I felt so important. Father loved having lots of relatives and friends around. Göring was proud of his wife, actress Emmy Sonnemann, informally regarded as the Reich's first lady. The position was vacant. Hitler was in no hurry to make his mistress, Eva Braun, a lawful wife. Emmy dazzled at receptions. Once she arrived at a gala in a luxurious sable coat and a diamond tiara, and Eva Braun cried with envy the whole night after. She longed for that kind of opulent life, the kind everyone knew at the Berghof. After the war, Emmy Göring lost everything. The Nuremberg tribunal named Hermann Göring one of the chief war criminals and sentenced him to hang. But on the eve of his execution, he took his own life. According to experts, Emmy brought him the vial of poison, quite plausibly bribing prison staff with a remnant of their former wealth.
Emmy Göring died in Munich in 1973 after a long illness. Another woman who gained an unofficial First Lady status was Magda Goebbels, a fervent admirer of the Führer. People called her Hitler's face. She dreamed of marrying him, and Hitler once remarked, "This woman could play an enormous role in my life." Magda saw him as the greatest man of the age, a kind of messiah for Germany. Many experts believe she married Joseph Goebbels simply to be closer to the Führer. The Reich Minister of Propaganda was short, lame, and physically deformed. Yet after seeing Magda at a rally, he told his secretary, "An astonishing woman." She married Goebbels fully aware of her true goal, to stand at the very center of the Nazi elite. Propaganda hailed Magda Goebbels as Germany's supermother. She had 6 children, all with names beginning with H: Helga, Hilda, Helmut, Hulda, Hedda, and Haida, as a gesture to Hitler, whose name in German also begins with H. Rumors persisted that not all the children were Goebbels. More than once, Magda was seen leaving the Führer's apartments early in the morning. She wrote, "I love my husband, but my love for Hitler is stronger. I'm ready to give my life for him." Physiognomists describe Magda Goebbels as a woman capable of extreme acts for the Führer. Strong cheekbones, a broad mouth, assured expressions, the look of a domineering personality drawn to risk and manipulation. She sacrificed not only herself, but murdered all her children. On the night of April 30th to May 1st, 1945, following Hitler's suicide, the Goebbels couple decided to end their lives. Joseph wanted to send the children away with a nanny, but Magda insisted they must go with us. With doctors' help, she sedated them, then crushed ampules of cyanide in their mouths. The eldest girl was 11, the youngest only 3. After making sure the children were dead, the couple also took poison. To what else were Hitler's enamored women prepared to go? And what secret did Eva Braun hide? Hitler was surrounded by beautiful, accomplished women. He had affairs with opera singer Margaret Zella, actress Renata Mueller, and British aristocrat Unity Mitford. These infatuated ladies lent him money and donated artworks and family heirlooms to the party. Among those willing to do anything for the Führer was Winifred Wagner, Richard Wagner's daughter-in-law, who regarded Hitler as a saint to the end of her days. Her husband Siegfried Wagner treated his wife's infatuation almost indulgently, like a curious whim. He didn't forbid her from seeing Hitler and gave her complete freedom. Hitler himself once said, "If I ever marry, who could be a better First Lady of Germany than the daughter-in-law of our greatest composer?" In the early 1930s, Winifred Wagner did help advance Hitler within cultural circles. Wagner's music became the sonic emblem of Nazi ceremonies, and Hitler suited the Wagners as the embodiment of the German genius, bearer of grand national ideas. He also had close ties with Leni Riefenstahl. In the late 1930s, she filmed Nazi parades. She had an extraordinary charisma. Hitler had a gift for electrifying crowds. Together, they crafted the visual power of the Nazi movement, an ideology that seemed to sweep everything aside. Officially, they met for work. Many experts are convinced there was more, and once again, Hitler profited. His artistic taste was limited, but he recognized talent and exploited it. Inspired by Hitler's ideas, Riefenstahl created fascism's central cinematic symbol, Triumph of the Will. He never promised her a future, however. He always maintained he would never marry. Doing so would alienate too many female admirers within the party.
Only one woman believed she would become Frau Hitler, Eva Braun. She turned a blind eye to his lovers, his disappearances, and his temper. She needed something, quite literally, to live for. Hitler became the meaning of her existence. She dyed her hair blonde, watched her figure, and changed outfits daily. Her dresses were tailored in Paris and Rome. Her shoes came from Ferragamo. In 2016, items of Eva's found in an abandoned bunker in the Bavarian Alps were auctioned in Britain. Lilac pantaloons with EB embroidered in lace and bows, a gold opal ring, and a silver lipstick case. Eva adored red lipstick. I tried to look good, especially when he was around. If only he had a little more time for me. From the diaries of Eva Braun. She happily played with the Goebbels children and dreamed of her own. Professor Thomas Lundmark believes it was this longing for motherhood that led Eva to risk a difficult gynecological operation by the standards of the time. In the archives, he found 2 testimonies. The surgeon's wife wrote that her husband operated on Eva Braun. Eva's mother confirmed the surgery was necessary due to an anatomical abnormality. The surgeon noted that Hitler rewarded him with a trip to Italy for operating on EB. So many flowers were delivered to Eva's room afterward that it looked like a florist's shop. She complained of severe pain. The medical files were later destroyed. Historians generally agree that Eva Braun had no children. But did Hitler have a child? According to one version, Adolf became a father long before he met Eva. In the early 1980s, Frenchman Jean-Marie Laurey claimed to be Hitler's son. His mother, Charlotte Lovejoy, said she had a liaison with the young corporal during World War I. Laurey showed a portrait of his mother said to have been painted by Hitler himself. Today, Laurey's children and grandchildren avoid the press. They have no desire to confirm a kinship with the number one enemy of humanity. If a son did exist, why did Hitler keep it secret, when he so loved posing for photographs with other people's children? Gerda Bormann, too, was a strange woman. She knew full well about her husband's incessant affairs and ignored them. Indeed, she believed the mistresses were failing in their duty and not providing Martin Bormann with enough children. After the Third Reich fell, Bormann's fate remained a mystery for years. His remains were positively identified only in 1998. Gerda's death is also shrouded in mystery. One account says she was hospitalized with cancer, but died not of the disease, rather of mercury poisoning used in chemotherapy. A Catholic priest, Theodor Schmidt, adopted the Bormanns' 9 orphaned children. They had to change their names and documents to avoid revenge. Too many wanted to settle scores with the children of Nazi criminals. Another grim discovery came to Jennifer Teague, granddaughter of Ammon Goeth, one of the most brutal commandants of the Plazov concentration camp. While researching depression treatments in a reading room, she came across a book that nearly drove her to suicide. On the cover was a photograph of her grandmother with an SS officer. "My life fell apart. I no longer knew who I was. I am the granddaughter of a mass murderer who shot hundreds of people. With my skin color, he would have shot me too." Ammon Goeth personally shot and beat to death more than 500 prisoners, outstripping most Nazi butchers in cruelty. The first ladies of the Third Reich believed to the end that their husbands were forging a new human history. Many entered history feet first, with a bullet in the head, a crushed ampule of poison, or a shameful noose around the neck. When they learned after the war what had actually been done, many suffered total psychological collapse. Their world imploded. When Soviet troops reached Berlin,
Hitler withdrew to a bunker known only to his inner circle. Today, there's just a parking lot on the site. A small plaque is all that marks the dictator's last refuge. In 2013, historians announced the discovery of 2 farewell letters by Eva Braun. In one to her friend Gertie Schneider, she wrote, "My dear Gertie, our end draws closer. I am dying as I lived. It is not hard for me. You know, I was with him." Eva slipped into the bunker in late March despite Hitler's order that she remain safe in Bavaria. She had every chance to survive, but chose to stay. She still hoped to become his lawful wife.
On April 29, her greatest wish came true. After nearly 15 years at his side, she finally became Frau Hitler. The hasty ceremony had Goebbels and Bormann as witnesses. The ring, found at the last minute, was too large, and Hitler's trembling hands barely managed to slip it onto Eva's finger. He looked frail and could hardly walk. Eva, impeccable makeup and hair as always, signed the marriage certificate. So nervous, she misspelled her name and corrected it right on the document. A few hours later, Hitler said goodbye to his inner circle. Then he and Eva withdrew to a private room. He shot himself in the temple. She bit down on a cyanide capsule. Their bodies were carried into the courtyard, doused with gasoline, and burned. Until the end, Hitler ordered his intelligence services to search for Stalin, convinced that Stalin had faked his own death. Americans entertained similar doubts, hence the stories that Hitler escaped to Argentina and died there in 1965, supposedly with a new Eva at his side. Experts, however, call this fantasy. The encirclement was impenetrable, and remains recovered by Soviet forces were identified by dental records. They were married for less than a day, though they had known each other for nearly half a lifetime. The spawn of hell, and a woman with a biblical name who could not become a mother. All these women chased the status of wives to the Third Reich's chief executioners. They dreamed of love and domestic happiness, but every plan for a long life collapsed with the Nazi regime, and the end of each love story was truly horrific.